This is a Fleming 55. I'm a big fan of Fleming boats, and this is actually a very new one. It is an owner's boat, and in fact this one's cruised all up around the Baltic, but it was actually supplied at the beginning of this year, so it's had one season's use. I think it's got about 250 hours on, and that's typical of this sort of boat, because this is the kind of boat you buy if you really do want to go cruising. You're not just about going out and anchoring in a bay near the marina or a quick trip down the coast. This is for going anywhere. So we're going to do a full tour on this one, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I'm going to start actually with these teak cappings here, because they're not actually teak. This is actually resin, and it has the paper design of the teak, and then it's clear resin on top. Very, very practical, because you never have to varnish it or treat it. You just wash it and wax it like you would the rest of the boat. But it looks brilliant. I had no idea that wasn't the real thing when I came on board. Another thing that this boat's got is got the longer boat deck. I'll show you that when we go up on top, but normally this overhang comes to here. The idea of this is twofold. First of all, if you're somewhere hot and you're eating out here, you've got your table and chairs and so on, it gives you obviously more shade. But if you're somewhere where the weather isn't as good and you have canopies around here, instead of the canopies sloping down like this and getting in the way of your headroom, it brings it back and then it's much more vertical. So that's quite a nice option to go for. We're going to take a walk through this one and give you the full tour. I'll show you this before we go through. These are engine controls. It's for stern to berthing in the Med, and it means you can stand down here and you can watch the boat in, so that's quite a nice touch. We'll head on inside. These are all a fairly standard layout. There's a couple of small changes on this one. For example, this seat is not standard. Normally you'd have cupboards all the way along here for storage. This, I think, works well. It's a much more sociable arrangement because people can sit opposite each other and chat and so on. You've got this folding table here, and there's storage about the place, as you can see. Very much a Fleming feature is this overhead rail, because these are designed for doing some distances, and of course the weather is not always perfect. The TV that rises up out of this one, and if we head on forward, we'll find the galley area. So this, of course, is on the same level. It means you can serve straight out to this area, which is nice. You've got a dishwasher in here, and it's got proper big sinks, a proper induction hob, a proper cooker, and a microwave. And again, it's back to that Fleming ethos. The idea of owning a Fleming is you do some serious boating, you come down, you go out, and you stay out for days, weeks, or even months at a time. Another thing which is rather unusual but rather neat is up here, because that is a dumbwaiter up to the flybridge. So you can put some food in there, and they can open a hatch above and just lift it up. Very clever. Huge fridge freezers on this one, American style, like so. And then from here we split on up to the wheelhouse or down to the accommodation. I think we'll do the accommodation on the lower deck first of all. Again, these are all fairly standard. There's a few options you can have. It's a 3-cabin layout, but if you prefer, you can have an office in here. Again, these are owned by people who might want to go boating for 6 months at a time, and so to take your office with you and do a bit of work perhaps for a morning and then enjoy boating in the afternoon, that's quite a nice arrangement. I think I'd quite like to do that. I must show you this as well. That is your washing machine and your dryer. And there is a tour of a Fleming 65 coming, and I completely forgot about that. So if you see the 65 and wonder why that's not there, it is, I just didn't show it. Let's move on a bit further. This is cabin number 2. What they've done with this is they've put a Pullman berth in here, so you can drop that down. It's great if you've got kids and they bring their friends along, for example. And on this side as well, you can see there's 2 cushions here. That's because this slides out. You can see the track for it over there to twice the size. Put the cushions down flat, that gives you another bed, or slide it away as you have it at the moment. There's plenty of storage in here, of course, drawers down underneath, and so on. Nice cabin though, loads of headroom. That feels very good. Now both of these cabins share the day heads, that's over here. Toilet on this side, you've got your sink and storage in places like this, and then a big shower stall just here. And then finally the owner's cabin's up at the front of the boat. So if we go into here, this is what you get as the owner. Very nicely finished. This is all teak, of course, around here. Very traditional, really suits the boat. Big wardrobes in here and storage all around the place. There's drawers down underneath the bed. And this has its own private ensuite just in here. So the loo is down there, towel rail, and a separate shower. Very nice. So that is the lower deck. Let's go and work our way up and we'll take a look at the rest of it. So, steps back up. This time we're going to do a loop round to the left. That, incidentally, is for your plates and other bits and pieces. So you've got somewhere for everything. I like these little lights they put in, they're really nice. And this then is the wheelhouse, and it is a proper wheelhouse. There's a real little ship feel to this boat in areas like this. I like it very much. You've got your huge navigation screens on here. There's a bonning system, and this displays things like your fuel tanks. There's 4 fuel tanks. You can see that's on there at the moment, but you can change these. You want to look at your nav lights, for example, to tell you what's on and running. You've got some of the breakers here. And if we go to engines, that gives you engine instrumentation. Of course, they're not running at the moment. And then back to menu like that. So that's how that operates. There's also up here all the circuit breakers for the boat. This is quite neat the way they've done this, because all your 230 volt systems are here, but it's split. So everything that runs from the inverters is over on this side, and everything that can't run off the inverters, because it's high draw like washing machines and air conditioning, is on this side. So it's very easy to get to. And these are just clicking circuit breakers. So those are very good. And then on the other side, that's for your 24 volt and your 12 volt systems. So again, everything's exactly where you can get to it, and it's all designed so that you can very quickly switch anything on or off and get to everything that you need. And talking of backup, let me show you this, because these are electronic engine controls, but there are 2 completely independent systems for this. So if you've ever had a problem with the electronics on this, you can lift that, flick the switch, and it will run it across onto a completely separate system and keep you going. And in fact, it'll do it on the steering as well. The steering has a backup steering pump. If you had a problem with the steering, you can flick it across and carry on. And it's all about self-sufficiency, about being out at sea, properly out at sea, and not having to call for help ever, because you've got everything backed up and you can just keep going. You've got side doors on here. We'll walk past this nice little table and out of the side. And I think what we'll do is walk around the front first of all. We've got this nice Portuguese bridge. You can see that. As I say, it really does look like teak, but it's not. And then this is your foredeck section up here on the bow. Twin rollers, twin winches, and some nice little seats where you can tuck yourself away. Proper little ship looking boat though, isn't it? Let's head on back and we'll loop around this side. There's rails everywhere, and these are really high sides, so you feel like you're in the boat as you move around it and not on it. That's another door out from the pilot house, but we'll carry on right back and down the side. I like these overhangs, and back to the back of the boat, and this time we'll head on up and we'll take a look at the flybridge. So steps up, there's a pretty substantial tender on here. In fact, if we all go around to the back, you'll see that that's got a 30 horsepower engine on, so that's a pretty neat bit of kit for ship to shore use. And then over here there are more engine controls. Again, the idea is that you come into a place like this, you want to be up on top so you've got great visibility, but if you want to drive from the back, you can just walk down the side. The controls are right here. Thruster controls are here as well, they're underneath there. It's for your bow and your stern thruster. Let's head on forward. That's a life raft, that canister just there. And then here you have your seating area up on the flybridge. This one's got the hard top on it. These fellows here are cameras that are dotted around the boat, and you can see those on the screens at either helm position, so you can keep an eye on things. And then your helm seat is here. So again, that big vertical wheel, that proper little ship feel, and indeed a little ship view as well. Look at that. Fantastic. There is also access directly down from here to the pilot house and the interior. So we'll go this way just to show you how that works. Loop round. So this is where we came past a moment ago. You notice it's got side doors on here as well, so you can step off the boat if you're alongside a pontoon further forward. And this time we'll come back through here Stop and take a quick gander at that, and then head right on back and we'll find the engines which are under my feet at the moment. So the access to that, in fact there's various access points to the engines because you can lift the carpet up and access these from further forward. So this is probably the easiest one to get to, but there are others for if you're doing maintenance. Okay, let's drop on down. And here we'll find a pair of Cummins QSC 500 engines. They're 500 horsepower each, and they're giving the boat a top speed of about 20 knots and a cruise of about 16. But if you drop the speed back to 8 knots, you've got 2,000 plus miles of range. So again, that speaks very much of the long distance explorer style of the boat. Let's go right up to the front. This is quite interesting. This is the fuel manifold. So as I mentioned earlier, it's got 4 fuel tanks. And this is how you switch between them. So you see this little line here. It's going from forward and across to the port tanks to fuel the port engine. But if you switch that around, I won't actually do it, so that line goes that way, then it's feeding from the aft across to the port tanks. That's quite clever. This is fuel filters. You've got backups on here so you can switch from one to the other. And you've got the engine control systems in here as well. All very clean when you consider what sort of cruising this boat's already done. That's the stabiliser system, so it's got fin stabilisers on it, and that's the inside of those. And look how clean these engines are. They're absolutely immaculate. This whole area is. I mean, obviously it is a very new boat, but it's probably done more hours than a lot of boats that are 4 years old have done. You can have twin generators here if you want. This one's got a single generator, and what they've done is they've up-spec'd the battery bank so you can run a lot of stuff off the inverter rather than running a generator at all, so that's not a bad plan. This is interesting. It's the water pumps, and there are 2 of them. Again, it's all about redundancy. It's all about being out in your boat. If something goes wrong with the water system, no problem. Switch across to the other one and keep going. Very impressive. Let's head on back. That's one of those cameras that I was mentioning, just up there, so you can keep an eye on this area when you're at the helm and you're out at sea. And then back here, you can get right back to the steering gear and other bits and pieces. So there we go. That is the Fleming 55, and it's an interesting one to show you because that is the original Fleming. There's a range of Flemings now, but the first Fleming that came out was the 55. It's still going strong. I think they've sold about 250 of these already, and apparently forward orders are into about 18 months, so it has been an incredibly popular boat for them and continues to be so. But that's about the size of it, other than to say thank you to Fleming Europe for organising the tour, and thank you to the owner for allowing it, of course. And as ever, thanks to you guys for watching. Look forward to catching you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.